Hi, my name is Mike Dillard, and this is Self-Made Man, the podcast for those who want to leave their mark on the world and create a legacy of honor, integrity, and achievement in every aspect of your life. I'm glad you're here, and once again, it is time to forge your destiny. A few weeks ago, we hosted Pejman Ghadimi on the show, who's a very successful entrepreneur. His two primary brands are Exotic Car Hacks and Secret Entourage, and between them, he has over 45,000 paying members. Well, over the past 2 years, Pejman's put a ton of effort into growing his Instagram audiences, with Secret Entourage accumulating over 450,000 followers and just under 100,000 for Exotic Car Hacks. Now, acquiring those kinds of numbers takes a strategic plan, systematic execution, and some inside baseball. So how have they done it? Well, today we're joined by the man behind the curtain of those accounts and their growth, Andrew Goodman. So Andrew joined Pejman's team in 2014 and quickly took ownership of growing their Instagram audience to what it has become. And today, Andrew's going to lay out their entire process for you in one of the most detailed and valuable episodes that we've ever had here at Self-Made Man. This is the kind of show that I love to record, I love to learn from, and that I love to deliver to you guys because it's just packed with value from minute to minute. It is a masterclass on how to build an Instagram following. We're going to start by learning about the software they use to create, manage, and run their accounts. We're going to talk about how many times they post per day and why that is the most effective with the latest Instagram algorithms. We're going to talk about how they create superfans on their account, and best of all, what you need to do to build your Instagram account if you are just starting from scratch. So if you want to grow a massive following on Instagram and do it quickly, this is the episode you've been waiting for. Now, with that being said, I want to give you guys a quick update on the launch of the brand new Self-Made Man platform that is coming soon. So what is it? Well, we've spent the past year building what we believe will become the most valuable platform in the world for entrepreneurs. You can kind of think of it like Netflix, but instead of filming content that numbs your brain, we've been producing lessons for the past 12 months that will change every aspect of your life for the better, from your business to your health and even your relationships. As of today, we're just 11 days away from the start of the pre-launch campaign, which begins on February 5th. And to help us celebrate, we're giving away over $35,000 in cash and prizes, including the grand prize, which is the ultimate home office for your business. One lucky winner is going to walk away with a brand new stand-up desk from Uplift, just like the one that I have at my home office, a brand new MacBook Pro, a loaded iPhone 10, a Yeti Pro microphone if you want to start your own podcast, and a 4K 27-inch monitor, and $15,000 in cash or Bitcoin to put towards your startup. Now, if you haven't done so yet, head to selfmademan.com today and make sure that you're on our email list so you'll get an invite to join the VIP notification list for the platform and to enter the contest on February 5th so that you can have a chance to walk away with that grand prize. With that being said, let's dive into this week's amazing episode with Andrew Goodman. Hey everybody, Mike here. Welcome back. And today we're going to be discussing an extremely popular topic, which is social media marketing. How can you actually grow your presence online with Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, everything in between? And to help us do that, we're going to be talking to Andrew Goodman. So Andrew has been the man behind a couple of different properties that Pejman Ghadimi is the front man for and the owner of and the CEO, one of which is very popular in the entrepreneur circles, and that is Secret Entourage. Now, if you've been listening to the show, you probably heard our recent episode with Pejman on how to essentially buy your dream car, your dream luxury car, because he owns another property called Exotic Car Hacks, which I'm a customer of. It's a fantastic product. And if you follow Pejman online, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook, you notice that he's on there all the time, whether it's, image posts or story posts. They've just been crushing it. So we reached out to Pejman's team, and he put us in touch with Andrew, who's joining us today. And Andrew, you're the guy who's been behind the scenes, essentially growing the social media following, executing on y'all's plans, and you've just done a phenomenal job. And so we get an opportunity today to dive into y'all's processes and really how you've done this. So thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for that, and thank you for having me. I'm excited to speak with you and your audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So give us a little bit of background on how you came into this role and started working with Pejman.
Sure. So my story with Pejman actually goes back even longer than when I was full-time with Secret Entourage. Back in 2009, 2010-ish, I was a sophomore in college, and I found secretconsulting.com, which was their original website for Secret Entourage. And they gave a bunch of advice on how to start a business and things like that. And one of the things they did actually was they featured a photographer every month, an automotive photographer. And at the time, that's what I did. It was sort of a means to an end for me to get around all the exotic cars and things that I really loved but couldn't afford. So I reached out and asked him if they would feature my photos in the next month's feature photographer. And Pejman wrote back and said no, and said that they were getting away from that because it wasn't on brand. But I kind of stuck with him and said, hey, listen, I like what you're doing. I think it's really interesting. I'm your target demo. How can I help? And he was pretty frank and said, listen, English is my third language. He spoke, Farsi and then French. So the grammar and things in some of his posts weren't up to snuff and they needed more writing. So it started as me being a ghostwriter. At the same time, I was working for a company that was manufacturing aftermarket car parts overseas for Japanese cars. And I was doing marketing for them. And this is before Facebook ads, before Instagram, before even Twitter was really popping. So I was fortunate enough to have a front row seat in being a marketer while all these things were happening, and being a college student studying, marketing and business and psychology, and then working with Pejman for free. I worked for him for nothing for 5 years just to kind of help their cause. And, time came for me to leave the business I was working for, and I wanted to start my own advertising agency. And I came to him kind of hat in hand asking if Secret would be my first client. And it was good timing for them because they were looking for somebody to step in and take over that social role. And we just went off to the races from there.
So that was in 2014, and you essentially started managing their social media accounts. Since then, you've made over 20,000 posts to Instagram.
Yes.
You've helped grow the membership over there at Secret Entourage from 3,000 to over 35,000 members in the last 3 years. But you're coming into that role, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but with very little experience when it comes to social media marketing, right? Other than what you might be doing for your own personal stuff, but not for a business yet. So how did you teach yourself how to do that?
Yeah, and I had a little bit of experience just in how the different networks operated. I understood Facebook ads a little bit, but I was selling direct to consumer car modification products. I wasn't working in the self-help space, so to speak, which is a totally different animal. So for me, it was a lot of time spent inside the platform. Basically, once they handed me the keys to their Instagram, I was following guys like, millionaire mentor Jason Stone, who was one of kind of the pioneers in that space. But one thing that we had going for us was really high quality photography and really amazing visuals to go with all these quotes and stuff that we were building and putting together. So we were one of the first to do the motivational quote thing on Instagram. And I saw that there was just a huge upside in that. So I spent a lot of time making as many posts as I could. And that's why I posted so many times from the get-go. I was posting, almost 15, 20 times a day just on one account, and really looking at each post, seeing how many likes, how many comments, what people were receptive to and not receptive to, and then trying to get better a little bit each and every day.
Well, let's dive into real quick how you were able to acquire so many high quality images to do that, because especially if they're original, that's a difficult project.
Yeah. So I was lucky in that sense because I was an automotive photographer myself, so I knew a lot of them. And a lot of them were willing to let me use their work for free just because we were friends. But if you set that aside and someone going into this themselves looking for, content providers, a lot of times there are, smaller accounts who are very talented, who don't have a big following. And those are the people you want to look for because they may not have 50, 80, 100,000 followers, but their work is just as good, or an 8 out of 10. So those are the people you message that are kind of on the smaller side and say, hey, I really love your work and what you do. I put together these quotes. I'll never use your picture to sell anything. I just want to be able to put out great content for my followers, and I'll tag you in every post I make, with your photo. So that's one really easy way to get content from people for free. Other things we had done was give them, free product, free access to our academy, free access to us if they had questions. And of course, some of the guys that were really, really, really talented, we'd pay them, some nominal fee to get access to use their specific photos that we liked.
Well, I've thought about doing that. Can you give us a ballpark of what would be reasonable for that kind of fee? Are we, is this $10, $20, $50?
It depends on what you're doing with it. So there are some guys that we paid upwards of $200 or $300 a photo for, but we turned those photos into motivational posters that we printed and sold, right? So if you're getting a license to resell based on the image, you're going to pay more. But yeah, somewhere in the neighborhood of like $10 to $25 a photo for unlimited use, or you negotiate something and you say, listen, I'm going to give you $500 for me to use whatever I want for a year, and they won't be for commercial purposes, just for, visual polishing the brand, so to speak.
And did you put all this in writing and maybe, send out a DocuSign for them to sign an agreement?
We didn't go that far. It was in email threads. And then, so we knew there was kind of a paper trail, and then we just sent them, money via PayPal. You didn't have to go too crazy with it. But if you were a bigger company that had maybe more at stake, then it might be smart to get, a real legal document printed up.
Awesome. So what is your advice if you were going to, teach myself and those listening to this today on how to build a real Instagram following of, let's say, at least 100,000 followers? What's the real secret sauce behind that process?
So there's really three things that you want to focus on if you're trying to build that. The first of which is picking a segment of people to talk to, right? So getting down to a specific niche. It doesn't have to be hyper targeted to, car guys in Houston, Texas. But if you're focusing on the car world, that's, where you want to be. If you're looking for entrepreneurs who are young, entrepreneurs who are old, there's so many different groups out there. And really the more targeted you can be, the better you are, because it's more genuine and real, right? You're speaking to one specific person. It's much easier for me to write to an 18 to 25-year-old, who's going through maybe the college grind or not sure what they want to do with their life, versus maybe a 55-year-old who's been working a 9 to 5 their whole life and wants to transition out. I can't connect with that person as well. So think about you yourself and who you're able to communicate with as well. The second thing you want to do once you're inside of that niche is genuinely engage. Everybody talks about engagement, but genuine engagement is a different thing. There's all these apps out here that let you automatically like and follow and comment on people's pages. And it's really disingenuous, because I can tell when I make a post and use a specific hashtag, and then there's some comment that's like, great work, and like a star emoji, but it doesn't gel. It's not a real response to what I wrote. So I actually block those accounts because I know they're using bots, versus people that take the time. Even some of the juggernauts, you look at like an Andy Frisella who comes on from time to time and actually comments something relevant to our photo or responds to some of our followers. We're in the same space, so it makes sense for him to hop onto our page once in a while and respond to people and get involved in the conversation.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. What next?
The third is to create a community outside of Instagram or whatever network you're on. So when you're on a network like Instagram, you're at the mercy of Instagram to continue getting your reach, right? So back in 2014 and 2015, Instagram was a goldmine, because anytime you posted, you showed up at the top of people's feeds. So it made sense for you to post as frequently as possible, as long as it was good content. Now it's a different ballgame, where I used to post 12 times a day. Now I post 4 times a day with very different goals, because you're playing against an algorithm. But what we did early that we still succeed at now is drawing people off of Instagram into different funnels and communities. The biggest one for us right now being free or paid Facebook groups. So for Exotic Car Hacks and Watch Conspiracy, for example, we have free Facebook groups that we funnel people into that allow them to ask us questions, talk to Pejman directly, talk to each other about watches and cars. And then that can get them interested in the product, because we'll do live webinars and things inside of that Facebook group, product giveaways, just general discussions and stuff like that. So when you can own the audience, you're in a way better position to convert them into a customer later than just kind of leaving them in an Instagram page.
You know what I'm really interested in learning, if you could break this down, is essentially the roles and processes that are involved in this for you guys on a daily basis, right? What does this look like from an execution standpoint? Do you sit down each week or each day and say, hey, here's our agenda for our post today or this week or whatever it may be? How much forward planning do you do essentially? Then usually, Pejman puts out Instagram stories probably every day or pretty darn close to it. A lot of video, clips. And then who are the people and the roles involved to actually execute on this if it's, greater than yourself?
So there's essentially 4 people involved, including Petron and myself. And there's also a girl named Rachel who helps us in Exotic Car Hacks and Watch Conspiracy, and then Karen on Instagram for Secret. And essentially, it starts with me, where I am the creator of all the content. I use an app called Later, later.com, which has literally saved hundreds of hours off of my life because it allows me to create all my content from a desktop. I basically drag and drop it into this web app calendar. I write out all my captions by hand, and then I can schedule each post. Rachel and Karen have been tremendous in helping me get more done because they actually then are taking the physical post and posting it. So what Later does is it pushes a notification to your phone. You then swipe, paste the caption, and boom, it goes up on Instagram. So me not having to post on, 3 to 7 accounts at a time myself is super helpful and frees up a lot of time for me to do the creative work. And then anytime that I need content, if we have a specific promotion, let's say, for example, we have a live event in Houston coming up for Exotic Car Hacks. I emailed PJ this morning and said, hey, I need, these 5 videos. Can you please record them? And he had them done for me by lunchtime. So
okay, got it. So you're kind of mapping that out and essentially serving as the producer and the marketer around the goal that you guys have established, right? Maybe it's a sale, maybe it's a live event, whatever it is that you're doing. And you kind of take control of what you need produced. Exactly.
Think of me almost as like a DJ, but we also let other people in the team submit their ideas. It's not a monarchy where I'm saying that I'm the supreme leader of Instagram and no one else is allowed to contribute. So I take a ton of ideas from Pejman, Rachel, Karen, even fans who like DM us stuff and say, hey, this meme might be interesting with your spin on it. So I certainly also rely on other brains to make sure that the content stays, top notch and interesting. And we're willing to take risks on stuff that doesn't go over well. Not every post is going to go gangbusters and get 5,000 likes and hundreds of comments, but we're willing to take a lot of swings at bat to hit those home runs.
Now, what's the most effective way to actually grow subscriber base, right? Posting and doing it 100% organically is fine, but man, that can just take a long, long, long time, especially on Instagram if you're simply relying on hashtags, right? What are ways to speed that process up and to do it correctly, just so folks understand this? I'm not talking about anything black hat or shady. Sure. I'm talking about real subscribers, real interaction, but how do you speed that process up?
Actually, one thing that's funny, you mentioned hashtags. I don't really use them at all anymore because I found that they're just hotbeds for spam.
Yeah.
And they were kind of, killing our genuine, community feel. So I cut a lot of that out, but something I've done in the past and still do now is I partner with specific pages in and around my niche to kind of shout each other out and engage on each other's pages. There's a lot of engagement groups around where, let's say you're in the surfing space, I would go through and DM, every surfer and every surfing related account that I could find and say, hey, I'm this like new surf magazine. I'm coming up. I want to feature your content. I think I'd have some content that you could feature as well. Do you want to kind of get on and engage with each other every time we post? And then, it's Tuesday at 2:00. You make a post and then you could send it to your group and say, hey guys, please comment on this. Please like, please share. And they'll start to do that. And what happens is it shows up in that the explore feed for a lot of people that follow those surfers, and then B, that other notifications tab where you can see what your followers and people you're following are doing. So I can see, Mike Dillard liked Andy Frisella's post, and I can click on Andy's video and watch it and stuff like that. So you want to kind of game getting onto the explore page, and B, that second feed where the bigger accounts or even similar sized accounts are interacting with you and doing it again in a genuine way, not just saying like, great, bro, like, really taking the time to write a thoughtful comment.
Yeah, and I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a minute, putting myself in some of the listeners' shoes here. Or maybe they're starting a brand new company, a new brand, and they've got 120 followers on their Instagram account, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of a chicken or the egg deal when it comes to, shout outs or mutual support, things like that, because, the guys you're going after might have accounts with 100,000 people and they have no incentive to do a deal with you when you've got 150, right? There's no ROI for them in that regard. So what would you suggest in that case?
In that case, there's a couple of things I would do. I still would take those swings. If you have something really interesting and new and innovative to offer, then there's some way for you to make a deal. If you're selling a product, for example, you can send free product to someone who might be considered an influencer who only has, 30, 40,000 followers. Nowadays, people with under $100,000 or 100,000 followers aren't making a full-time income off of Instagram anymore. Ever since that big algorithm shift, the influencers and advertisers are really hurting. So you'd be surprised actually how little they would charge to do something for you and shout you out if you asked. It's always worth asking because anybody can afford, 25 or $50 for a very specific targeted shout out if you needed it. Another thing you could do is run ads on Facebook through Instagram. So using the Facebook paid platform, all you need to spend is $5 a day as a minimum, and you could target a specific group of people with your page, with a link to your website, with a link back to your Instagram to get followers. And we have tried that with some success, but because we're fortunate enough to have high followings on our pages, we didn't really need to go that direction. So we put like ads out to get clicks to, webinars on our website and stuff like that, which leads to followers on the rate for followers in those ads.
Right. I mean, that's essentially what we do. My primary media channel is email. All of our advertising dollars we spend, on Facebook is directed towards an email capture page in our newsletter. And then in that autoresponder series, kind of the welcome, first 7 days, then we're like, hey, go follow us on Instagram, go like our Facebook fan page and all of that stuff, right?
Exactly.
So what I was going to ask you is you've mentioned it twice now when it comes to the Instagram algorithm change. What happened?
So it used to be that Instagram was a timeline, meaning if I posted at 12 noon and you posted at 12:05, even if I had 500,000 followers and you had 10 followers, your 10 followers would see your post before they saw my post, assuming they followed both of us, right?
Yeah.
So Instagram was trying to combat people like me who were gaming the system. And when we would do our Black Friday sales, I might post every 15 minutes and just delete the old post over and over and over again. So it's not that I was cluttering the feed, but I kept trying to stack myself up and make myself go higher on the feed. And Instagram didn't care for that for obvious reasons. So what they did was they changed it to more of an algorithm like Facebook's news feed, where they try to show you the content that they think you want to see first based off of the pages that you engage with and look at most frequently. So me with 400,000 followers, I would get the same amount of likes back in the old days, not that it was that long ago, with, 180,000 that I do today with 450, even though my following has increased so much. And really what that does is put pressure on you to put out super high quality posts so that the people who do see it engage with it. And the more that happens, the more you get shown to the other people who follow you who may not see it the first day. So what you're seeing is two things. A mix of when the post is displayed, and then B, if it's a good post, there's a much longer tail for your engagement to happen. So you could get good engagement on a post over a 5-day period instead of being limited to a 12-hour period.
Right. Yeah, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating because you go through all this trouble to build up this distribution channel, if you will, this audience, and you have no control over how much of them actually see your work, despite the fact that they've raised their hand, followed you, and said, I want to see it. Right.
And you said it, though. I mean, getting people to email really is the ultimate way to own your audience. So everything that you do should revolve around getting them onto some kind of email list or, some kind of opt-in or offer so that you can own them that way.
But Andrew, I thought email is dead. It's 2018. Nobody uses email anymore, right?
I sense the sarcasm, but no, that is most certainly not true. Plenty of people use email, but most marketers don't do email well, and therefore they get, put to the trash can.
Yeah, it's just, I laugh every time I hear that, on my Facebook ads that people leave comments and stuff, around our videos on email list building. And this is so 10 years ago. And I'm like, yeah, I promise you, email's infinitely more effective and profitable than social media is, when it comes to what's important. Social media is fantastic at getting attention and, staying in front of somebody, but it's not the right media to sell through for the most part because, you've typically got either a static image or a 60-second story. And that's kind of it.
Yep.
And it's not built for that.
And the reach you get is at the mercy of Facebook and Instagram. I have friends who built huge pages and communities on these platforms that make literally a tenth of what they used to make because of the changes, and they weren't prepared to go another way.
Well, let's just say you guys have a really, really high quality following. What would you say people should expect if they've got a good following, good engagement when it comes to actual reach, right? If you guys have 400,000 followers on Instagram, a good post is going to get how many views?
I'm just going to look right now and tell you since I have my phone in front of me. So a great post that went up 15 hours ago reached 74,000 people out of 456,000 that we have following. And I venture to guess that probably 20,000 of them are not actual followers of the account. We probably got onto the Explore page with that one. So I would venture to guess about 10% of your total audience is going to see a really high quality post, which seems low, but there's still a ton of meat on the bone there for you to take and convert those people into customers, into email list members, and into other avenues.
I don't remember the specific names or website addresses, but I know about a year ago we were talking with someone who mentioned that there are essentially not exchanges, but sites you can go research the top influencers in any given niche and then reach out to them with a specific, ad offer basically, right? Or a sponsored post offer. Have you guys ever used any of those?
Those do exist. We haven't used them only because we were in the game early enough that we knew all those people anyway.
Yeah.
So there are also people that act almost as like agents on Instagram, where you might have one guy who has access to 300 or 400 accounts, from models to car pages to watch guys to gun guys to, whatever else is there. And those people were probably the most valuable to us because they, were able to give us very tailored packages where, okay, it's $3,000, you're getting 50 posts across these 5 accounts, and this is what you get, and you can pick and choose. So I would actually look more for people like that. And just the easy question, if you're DMing with somebody who sells shout outs, is, hey, who else is in your network? Because a lot of these guys are banding together and are able to get more from teaming up and expanding their reach across X amount of accounts instead of just being their lonely self in their corner. So
yeah. And I know the answer is going to be a little bit obvious, but you'd be surprised at how many folks try to cheat the system and use a bot and, the whole auto follow, auto comment, type stuff. What advice would you give folks who are tempted by that?
Your best case scenario still isn't good. So your best case scenario is you spend that money, you do that, you get a couple followers. But when someone goes to your page, they see that you're following 4,000 people. Maybe you have 2,000 followers back or something. There's a shot at getting a couple quality people out of it, but the worst case scenario is really what you don't want, which is that Instagram recognizes that you use that bot and they throttle down your reach indefinitely. So Instagram isn't stupid. Their engineers are actually very smart, and they don't talk publicly about how they police their system or punish or reward accounts, but there absolutely is a back-end rating that you can get, which basically shows that you're using dubious practices that are outside of Instagram's guidelines, and they could either shut your page down if your score gets low enough, or they can significantly pull back your reach. So you may think you're reaching a ton of people because you're doing your, like, comment bot thing, but really the quality of those people is very low, and the amount of real people that you reach is even lower.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And then any suggestions on how to get your account verified, right? Get the blue little check mark.
Yeah. So Instagram verifies based off of 2 criteria right now. One, if you're a person, like, your page is Mike Dillard, or B, if you're an actual news publication. So we actually tried to get Secret Entourage verified through that, and they were pretty strict and said no. But if you look at sites like a BuzzFeed, Attention.com, like a real news blog, that's one way to get verified, and the other is by being, an actual person. And a hack to kind of get sped up into verification if you're a person is to find someone that is impersonating you on the platform. And that way they ban the impersonator, and then they verify you because they see it as, okay, Mike now has a profile status that's large enough that people are trying to be like him. we're going to get him verified so that, members of the community know that he's the real one.
And they're not doing that for businesses?
No, they're not. It may be a slow rollout. It may not be, but they're just holding pretty tight to who they're verifying and who they're not, versus Twitter, who verifies anybody with a pulse, if you ask.
Oh, well, man, I still can't get that either.
Really?
Oh, no. I've tried like once a year. I'll submit for 3 years and I have no idea why, but there's been no luck there. So that's interesting. Yeah, Secret Entourage does not have that either, but I believe Pejman does, correct?
He doesn't either. And frankly, it's not as important to us anymore. The reason that we wanted verification over anything else is so that we could get swipes in our Instagram stories. And so I was kind of lobbying our Facebook rep to let us get verified. And she was like, listen, you're just going to get that feature in a month anyway, because we're going to roll it out to all accounts with over 10,000 followers. So then we kind of were pacified and said, okay, then we don't care. And
that essentially allows someone to swipe up and it'll take them to whatever real website or link you want them to go to.
Exactly, through Instagram stories specifically, which is another avenue that we found is a really great way to engage and talk to people, because they can reply and DM you, based on what you say in your message. And that's been a big part of us growing our page and our community as well, as being receptive and responsive. I've answered, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of followers who have messaged into the page for one reason or another.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Andrew, this has been one of the most packed, dense podcast episodes we've had in a long time, which I really appreciate. This is like my style, is get to the details and get to the point.
Yeah, for sure.
So this has been absolutely awesome. What else have we not covered yet that you think would be important for people to know?
So I think actually would like to dig into the engagement side a little more when it comes to DMs, because that's been a secret little treasure chest for us.
Please, that'd be great.
Something we've done to drive a lot of leads and a lot of traffic is actually in our posts and in our stories, tell people to DM us to get an invite to a special training, or to get a link to get Pejman's book, Third Circle Theory, for free, or a free preview of Radius is another thing that we did. So no matter how big or how small your following is, anybody that you can get to see your post and message you is a lead, a customer, a human being who's genuinely interested in what you do and wants to talk to you. And I think one of the biggest keys to our success as a business has been our willingness and our openness to talk with so many people. From the minute I wake up in the morning to the minute I go to bed, I'm looking at our DM inbox all day, making sure that anybody who messages in with a question, no matter how stupid or how complicated, gets answered. And there are kids, that message us these long-winded diatribes of their whole life story. And, they're then asking you for advice and help. And in our situation specifically, we're in a really fortunate, but also kind of a heavy position, right, to help these people, because it's our mission to do that and to care. So I take that job very seriously. Sometimes, even answering and acting as Pejman when I have to, if I know what he's going to say or what he would say to somebody, I type it out just as if I were him. And what that means to the person on the other end can't be quantified. And there are so many people who I see then joining the academy, buying the programs, buying books, and then not only being customers, but then posting on their pages, tagging us, saying how happy they were to talk to us, and how gracious we are as people and as a company. Taking the time to do that pays off in spades down the road. And that's really the strategy that you want to play. Everybody's looking for how much money can I make today in a day? Whereas I look at it as, the 10 minutes that I spend in a DM conversation with somebody is an investment that the guy's not going to be a customer now, but he might be in 6 months. And then down the line, he might join the other two programs too, and then maybe buy into an even higher tier or something or other. But it all starts with that first interaction.
Yeah, without a doubt. You're simply acknowledging them is so rare, especially considering that, they're looking up to you guys, and they're fans, that they're like, oh, fan for life, right? Like they took the time to even just say thanks or respond to my message. It's
I can't believe how many authors are out there who will post about their book and have people comment and say they bought it, and they won't respond to them and say thank you. Like they need to put up this invisible wall between them and their community. Like, why aren't you commenting? Why are if someone buys your product, you should thank them, especially with the amount of competition that's in the marketplace today.
Yeah, exactly. Well, man, this has been super, super helpful. It's brought a lot of clarity to this space that hasn't been discussed here before. So thank you so much. This has been fantastic. Absolutely, Mike. My pleasure. I'm really, really glad we had a chance to connect finally. Likewise. So where should people go to connect with either you personally or obviously, secretentourage.com, exoticcarhacks.com? Where else should people go? Well, people can DM me directly at Secret Entourage or at Exotic Car Hacks on Instagram, and I'd be happy to talk to them there. If they want to hear from me specifically, I have an email list that I send out every month from andrewgoodman.email. I sell nothing. It is only basically a curation of articles and videos and pictures that I find on the internet that I think are really interesting and are educational. So my goal for that is basically for everybody to learn one thing new every month from that list. It's a pretty short read, and I link out and tell you, how long a video is, how long an article is, and it's just kind of my little passion project for myself. Gives me something to do outside of the space that I'm in. So if someone wants to connect with me there, it's sent from my personal email address, so they could always reply to that as well, or email me at andrew@secretentourage.com. Awesome, brother. Well, you've been extremely generous. Thank you so much for your candidness and transparency and your willingness to share what you know. This has been awesome. Mike, my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. You bet. Well, guys, gals, thank you so much. As always, take care. We'll see you next week.